Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Tuesday edition of Source 16 News. I'm Eddie Owen. Thanks for joining us. Well, Governor Steve Beshear says legislators in special session are fighting the clock. On the second day of a 9-city trip, the governor made a stop at the Hopkinsville Christian County Airport this morning. The governor urged Kentuckians to demand a Medicaid resolution from Republican senators. Beshear blamed Senator David Williams for not coming up with a Medicaid budget that forced legislators to return to Frankfort yesterday for a special session, saying that time is running out.
And we're facing a deadline that affects the health care of over 800,000 Kentuckians in this state. We're facing a deadline because the Constitution requires that I've got to balance these budgets by June 30. I don't have any choice. We've got to balance this Medicaid budget by June 30. And if these folks refuse to step up and do the job, starting April 1, the only way that we're going to be able to get enough money to balance that budget is to institute about 35% reimbursement rate cuts to all of the Medicaid providers all over the state.
Beshear says Williams is proposing education cuts to help balance the Medicaid budget that would cut over $585,000 from the Christian County school system, $38 million from statewide K-12 education, and over $22 million from statewide higher education. The governor also spoke today to Kentuckians in Paducah, Owensboro, Louisville, and Bowling Green. A devastating fire has destroyed part of a Murray Motorsports company. Callaway County Fire Rescue Assistant Chief Thomas Morgan told Source 16 they received the call of a fire at Hannigan Motorsports on 641 South between noon and 1 o'clock yesterday. Many residents in the area were reportedly forced to stay inside because of toxic fumes that were released into the air due to the blaze. Morgan says it took fire crews a couple of hours to control the blaze. Hannigan Motorsports builds trikes and sidecars for motorcycles and has about 40 employees. All of the company's employees were on their lunch break when the fire started, and no one was in the building at the time. Morgan said the cause of the fire is still under investigation by the state fire marshal, but arson is not suspected. A Graves County man and a Webster County woman are behind bars after an alleged kidnapping and robbery early this morning. Around 1:15 this morning, Kentucky State Police and the Livingston County Sheriff's Office received a call from a woman that she had been robbed and assaulted in Land Between the Lakes National Recreation Area. The victim told police that she had asked two acquaintances to drive her from a Livingston County home to her home in Paducah, but instead the couple drove her to LBL, where she was forced out of the car before she was robbed and sexually assaulted. The alleged victim then told police the couple traveled north on Kentucky 453 toward I-24, where they were spotted by a Livingston County deputy and pulled over. The driver of the car, 39-year-old Eddie Stylers Jr. of Simpsonia in Graves County, and his passenger, 18-year-old Samantha Ellison of Clay in Webster County, were arrested after police located evidence linking the pair to the robbery, including $1,600 in cash. Stiers is charged with kidnapping, second-degree robbery, first-degree sexual abuse, fleeing, evading police, and a couple of traffic-related violations. Ellison is charged with conspiracy to commit robbery, facilitation to kidnapping, possession of marijuana, tampering with physical evidence, and more. The couple were lodged in the McCracken County Jail. Well, business owners in downtown Mayfield are pushing for a parking ordinance to be enforced. Wells studio owner Jill Saleya confronted the city council during last night's meeting, saying courthouse employees are taking parking away from her customers.
Also, we do a lot of pictures for young families that have infants and young children, and on cold or rainy days, it's very inconvenient for them to have to park a distance away. And that's exactly what they have to do now, of course, is because there's no parking problem in Mayfield. The problem is there's no customer parking in Mayfield.
Council members agreed that there is a problem with parking in downtown Mayfield and proposed changing the wording of the ordinance.
We are going to correct that and definitely have a better ordinance, but we certainly want to have something that is something that the businesses, because that's what we want, the businesses, we want the businesses in downtown and people to be able to, because we all know that we'll park at the mall 3 miles away, but we won't walk a block to one of our downtown businesses.
The ordinance regarding parking downtown was sent to the Police and Code Committee by council members. Meanwhile, the council approved Mayor Cantrell's pick for police chief. Brian Morrison is Mayfield's new chief of police after Barry Rice stepped down over 2 weeks ago to take a job with the Kentucky State Police. Morrison has been with the Mayfield Police Department for about 13 years. Well, the city of Hopkinsville held its second community conversations last night at Millbrook Elementary School. After a brief play by Millbrook students, Mayor Dan Kemp announced Thomas Wolf of Racine, Wisconsin, has been hired as the city's new public works director and will start work next month.
Tom's a graduate engineer and has had a lot of significant experience working with cities, townships, and doing just exactly the kind of work that we need a public works director to do here in Hopkinsville. So we're looking forward to getting Tom on board the 1st of April.
In addition, Kemp updated attendees about how well the local economy is doing. The community conversations is one way area residents can meet one-on-one with the mayor to discuss their concerns, whether it's a neighborhood problem or a community-wide concern.
And I think it's really paying off. The economic health of our community is improving. We had about 600 new jobs created last year in our industrial park due to plant expansions, and we expect more plant expansions. So we were able to announce the new Denso plant last month with 87 new jobs starting in July of this year. So I think our economy is slowly improving, and that's a really positive sign.
Ann Cox of Lafayette Road attended last night's event to talk to Kemp about a traffic concern in her neighborhood.
I live in Briarwood, but it's behind Holiday Park, but I have to go through Holiday Park, to get out to Lafayette Road. And, it's a problem. If you're going to turn left, I've waited as much as 15 minutes to try to get out. If you go to the right, you can maybe 5 minutes max.
The next community conversations will be held Monday night, May 9th from 5:15 to 7 o'clock at Belmont Elementary School. Well, thanks to 2 donations from a local hospital, Murray Independent Schools and Marshall County's school district are better prepared to save the life of an employee or student who could have a sudden heart attack. The Murray-Callaway County Endowment for Healthcare recently donated an automated external defibrillator, or AED, to Murray Independent Schools to enhance safety for employees and students at risk of sudden cardiac death. In addition, the Marshall County School System received 4 donated AEDs from the Murray-Callaway County Endowment for Healthcare. An AED is an emergency medical device that delivers an electrical charge to a person who is experiencing a life-threatening abnormal heart rhythm or sudden cardiac arrest. An AED analyzes the heart rhythm with a computer in just a few seconds and advises the rescuer if a shock is required. If no shock is required, the machine doesn't charge up, preventing an accidental shock. Republican Secretary of State candidate Hilda Legg was in Hopkinsville yesterday and stopped by our studios. The former school teacher says she has spent a lot of time in Washington, D.C. working on rural economic development.
Working with President Ronald Reagan and both President Bushes, focused on rural economic development. My job has either been in teaching as a former school teacher, in not-for-profit work, and for running programs that impact our rural communities across not only the Commonwealth but the nation as well. So I'm very adamant about economic development in our rural areas, very passionate about educating our young people, and excited about this campaign for Secretary of State.
As Secretary of State, she says Kentucky needs to continue to upgrade technology, create jobs by facilitating business filings, and be aggressive seeking out new companies that may be willing to locate in the state in order to create more job opportunities. Most importantly, Legg said we have to protect our vote, which is a given right of ours, and make sure people understand they need to exercise that right and how powerful that vote is. If elected, Legg plans on holding civic forums in all 120 counties.
As an old school teacher, I think I look at our young people and I don't see the civic education that I used to teach. And certainly that I had growing up in a rural school system. So I'm going to be very aggressive in going to all 120 counties and creating civic forums and helping our young people understand about the act of voting, about being involved across party lines, but being an active citizen. And so I'm very excited about launching that and being a spokesperson from the Secretary of State's office to make that a very successful and put Kentucky on the map nationally as a state that understands that its young people, they're the future, and we have to make sure they are engaged.
Legg was born and raised in rural Adair County in the 1st Congressional District and now lives in Somerset. During the May primary election, she'll face off with Republican Bill Johnson of Elkton. The Hopkinsville Surface and Stormwater Utility Board held a special call meeting last night and unanimously approved to forward a water quality ordinance to the Committee of the Whole for review. According to the board, the ordinance is a federally mandated stormwater regulation of the Clean Water Act. Under the Clean Water Act, the city is required to ensure that water is not polluted near construction sites. Steve Bourne explained to the board what will happen after the ordinance is forwarded to the Committee of the Whole.
If you are comfortable with this, is to in essence make a recommendation to City Council that they review it and then submit it to the state. Then we'll just wait and see what happens there. It will come back to you all once the state looks at it and approves it. Then we'll have an actual recommendation for adoption in front of City Council at the City Council meeting as an ordinance.
According to the board, the ordinance is a cost-effective approach to stormwater quality management. Get ready, tonight's Mega Millions jackpot is $172 million, and Wednesday's Powerball jackpot is $67 million.